Principal Du-Won sat at his large desk, staring at the holographic message floating in front of him. His four eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of stress among his species. The message was from the Galactic Council of Education, and its contents made him uncomfortable. A human student, he said out loud to his empty office. The walls, made of living crystal, changed color slightly in response to his stress. They want to send a human to our academy. The Galactic Academy of Advanced Sciences was the most prestigious school in 3-star systems. Its halls had produced some of the greatest minds in the galaxy. And now, the council wanted them to accept a human, a species that had only achieved spaceflight in the last century. Do-Won pressed a button on his desk. "Assistant Kita, please come to my office." Minutes later, Professor Kita entered. Like most Andromedans, he moved with perfect grace, his hovering form making no sound. "You called for me, Principal." "Yes, look at this." Do-Won gestured at the message. "The council wants us to accept a human exchange student. What do you know about humans?" Kita's skin shifted from its normal blue to a thoughtful green. "Not much, Principal. They're from a high-gravity world. They still use physical movement for most tasks. Very primitive in many ways, but they learn quickly. The council says it's important for diplomatic relations," Do-Won said. "The student's name is Hansol. His records show he's in the top 25% of his class. Not brilliant, but acceptable." Keita moved closer to read the full record. "It says here he's a track and field captain. What does that mean?" "Some kind of human recreational activity, I assume," Do-Won said. "Probably not important. What concerns me is their physical structure. Our facilities aren't designed for species that move by walking." "We can modify some areas," Kita suggested. "The anti-gravity fields can be adjusted. Though I worry about their endurance. Humans tire easily, don't they? Their bodies constantly need fuel and rest." Do-Won looked at the attached image of Hansol. The human looked so solid, so heavy, with all that dense bone and muscle. Most advanced species had evolved beyond the need for such primitive physical forms. "We'll need to make special arrangements for their limitations." Just then, another message appeared. Do-Won read it, and his eyes widened. "The human will arrive tomorrow." The council didn't even wait for our response. "Tomorrow." Kita's color shifted to alarmed yellow. "But we haven't prepared anything. The other students haven't been informed." "Send a message to all faculty," Do-Won said, his voice firm despite his worry. "We need to prepare everyone. Remind them that humans are physically fragile and will need special care. We don't want any accidents." As Kita left to spread the word, Do-Won looked again at Hansol's image. The human student was smiling in the photo, showing those strange white teeth that humans had. There was something in that smile that made Do-Won nervous, though he couldn't say why. "Well," he said to himself, "how much trouble could one human cause? They'll probably spend most of their time resting anyway." The living crystal walls shifted to a deep purple, as if they knew something Do-Won didn't. Tomorrow, the Galactic Academy of Advanced Sciences would receive its first human student, and nothing in the academy would ever be the same again. In his small apartment on Earth, Hansol was packing his bags. Among his textbooks and clothes, he carefully placed his running shoes, jump rope, and exercise bands. No one had told him he couldn't bring his regular workout equipment, and after all, he thought, how would he stay in shape without his daily exercise routine? Little did the academy know, but what they considered a diplomatic formality was about to become the most exciting experiment in galactic education history. Hansol zipped up his bag, did one last set of push-ups, and went to bed, ready for tomorrow's adventure. The arrival bay of the Galactic Academy filled with curious students. None of them had seen a real human before. They floated or hovered in their anti-gravity fields, waiting for the transport ship to dock. Yoonji, one of the top students from the Centauri system, turned to her friend Jae-ho. "I heard humans can't even use telepathy. she said through her environmental suit's speakers. How do they learn anything? They use primitive sound waves for communication, Jaiho replied, his andromedian form glowing with slight disdain, and they have to physically move their bodies to get from place to place. Very inefficient. The transport ship's doors opened with a soft hiss. Hansol stepped out, carrying 2 bags. The alien students moved back slightly, surprised by how heavily he walked on the floor. Even with the station's reduced gravity, his footsteps made solid sounds. Hansol looked around with bright eyes and a friendly smile. He was shorter than most of the alien students, but his solid form made him stand out among their more ethereal shades. "Hello," he said, bowing politely. "I'm Hansol. Thank you for having me at your academy." Principal Du-Won floated forward. "Welcome, student Hansol. We have prepared special accommodations for your physical needs." He gestured to a hover chair nearby. "This will help you move around without tiring yourself." Hansol looked at the chair with interest. "Thank you, but I prefer to walk. It helps me stay active." The alien students whispered among themselves. Stay active? Why would anyone want to stay active when they could use technology instead? "As you wish," Du-Won said uncertainly. "Student Yoonji will show you to your first class. We've modified the schedule to allow you extra rest periods." Yoonji moved forward in her environmental suit. "This way," she said, trying to move slowly so the human could keep up. To her surprise, Hansol walked alongside her easily, showing no signs of effort. Their first class was quantum mathematics. Hansol sat at a specially reinforced desk, while the other students hovered in their anti-gravity fields. The teacher, Professor Myray, began the lesson. "Today we will discuss 11-dimensional probability calculations," she announced. "Human student, please don't worry if you can't follow everything. We understand your species is still working with basic 4-dimensional math." Hansol nodded politely but said nothing. He took notes with an actual physical writing tool, which made several students stare in fascination. When Professor Myray asked questions, he gave correct answers, though not as quickly as Yoonji or Jiho. During the break between classes, Jiho approached Hansol. "Your mathematical understanding is adequate," he said, trying to sound generous. "How do you compute without using your brain's quantum core?" "We don't have quantum cores," Hansol explained. "We just practice a lot." "Practice?" Jiho's glow flickered in confusion. "You mean you repeat actions physically until you improve? How primitive." Hansol smiled. "Sometimes the old ways work best. Would you like to study together sometime? I'd love to learn more about how you do things." Before Jiho could answer, the bell rang for the next class. The alien students gracefully floated toward their next lesson. Hansol stood up, stretched his arms above his head in a way that made several students gasp in horror at the strange movement, and walked to class. "Did you see that?" Yoonji whispered to Jiho. "It moved its body parts on purpose, for no reason." "Humans are so strange," Jiho agreed. "At least it's only physical activities they do differently. They couldn't possibly surprise us in any other way." In the back of the group, Hansol heard their whispers and smiled to himself. He hadn't mentioned that tomorrow was his first physical education class. He wondered what his new classmates would think of a simple game of dodgeball. The day continued with more classes, more curious stares, and more assumptions about human limitations. But Hansol kept smiling, kept walking, and kept stretching whenever he felt like it. Tomorrow would be interesting indeed. The morning announcement caught everyone by surprise. Principal Du-Won's holographic image appeared in every classroom of the Galactic Academy. "In the spirit of cultural exchange," he said, his 4 eyes blinking slowly, "the Council has approved a new mandatory course. Physical education. This course will help us understand different species' physical capabilities." The students looked at each other in confusion. Physical activities were considered outdated by most advanced species. Even walking was seen as unnecessary when anti-gravity technology existed. Professor Kita would teach the new class. He had spent all night researching human physical activities and still couldn't believe what he had read. Surely, the information must be wrong. The first physical education class gathered in the Academy's largest empty hall. The anti-gravity fields had been turned down to match Earth's gravity, though they remained active to help the alien students move around. Today, Professor Kite announced, we will learn about traditional human physical activities. Student Hansol has volunteered to demonstrate. Hansol stood up from his reinforced chair. He had changed from his regular uniform into what he called gym clothes, loose-fitting items that allowed easy movement. The other students watched with scientific interest. Before we begin, Professor Kita said, I must warn you that what you're about to see may seem extreme. Remember, humans come from a high-gravity world and have evolved unusual physical capabilities. Hansol smiled. I'll start with some basic warm-up exercises, he said. These are what human children do in school every day. He began with simple stretches. The alien students watched in horror as he bent his body in various directions. Yoonji's environmental suit started flashing warning signals. Is he breaking his structural support beams? She whispered to Jiho. Impossible, Jiho replied, though his usual confident glow had dimmed. No species would deliberately damage itself. Then Hansol started jumping jacks. The sight of a solid being repeatedly launching itself against gravity made several students activate their emergency stabilization fields. Professor Kita checked his instruments. Student Hansol, are you sure this is a basic activity? The energy expenditure readings are approaching dangerous levels. This is just the warm-up, Hansol explained. We haven't even started the actual exercises yet. The professor's color changed to a worried purple. There's more. Hansol nodded cheerfully. Much more. Should I demonstrate push-ups next? Before the professor could answer, the Academy's medical alert system activated. The computer had detected what it thought was dangerous physical strain and automatically notified emergency services. 3 medical officers rushed into the hall. They stopped short when they saw Hansol, completely fine and not even breathing hard. I tried to tell them this would happen, Principal Du-Won said, floating into the hall. Our systems aren't calibrated for human physical capabilities. Hansol looked apologetic. Should I stop? No, the principal said, surprising everyone. The council wants us to learn about other species. We must adjust our understanding. Please continue, but perhaps with something less intense. Well, Hansol said thoughtfully, I could show you some basic ball games instead. Do you have anything like a rubber ball? The maintenance system created a soft rubber sphere according to Hansol's specifications. He bounced it once on the floor, making everyone jump at the unexpected movement. This, he said with a grin, is something we call dodgeball. It's a very simple game. You just throw the ball and try not to get hit by it. The alien students looked at each other nervously. Throw things at each other? What kind of strange physical education did humans practice? They had no idea that the real surprises were still to come. The Academy's medical team stood ready as Hansol prepared to demonstrate dodgeball. Professor Kita had insisted on their presence after the warm-up incident. The alien students hovered at what they considered a safe distance. The rules are simple, Hansol explained, holding the rubber ball. 2 teams try to hit players on the opposite team with the ball. If you get hit, you're out. If you catch the ball, the thrower is out. Hit each other with a physical object. Yoonji's environmental suit displayed multiple warning symbols. That seems dangerous. Hansol demonstrated by throwing the ball gently against a wall. The soft thump made several students retreat further. The ball is soft. It doesn't hurt. Would anyone like to try? After much encouragement, Jiho volunteered. His Andromedian form glowed with determination as he attempted to grip the ball with his energy field. The ball dropped to the floor. Perhaps a demonstration would help, Professor Kita suggested. Student Hansol, could you show us a typical game? Hansol smiled. I'll need some space. He walked to one end of the hall. Could someone throw the ball at me? Don't worry about throwing too hard. Professor Kita used a gravity beam to launch the ball at medium speed. What happened next made every alien in the room freeze in astonishment. Han Sol moved, not the slow, plodding movement they had seen before, but a sudden fluid dodge that seemed to defy physics. The ball missed him by centimeters. In one smooth motion, he caught the rebounding ball and threw it back. The professor barely had time to activate his shield before the ball bounced off it. The speed and accuracy of the throw made his instruments spark with alarm. That was a light throw, Han Sol said apologetically. In a real game, we move much faster. Faster. Principal Do-One had been watching from the doorway. His 4 eyes were wide with disbelief. How is that possible? Instead of answering, Han Sol demonstrated more moves. He jumped, rolled, twisted, and threw the ball in ways that made the Academy's physics department send urgent messages asking about gravitational anomalies in the gym. Yoonji's analytical mind was racing. The energy required for those movements, the reaction speed, the physical coordination, it's beyond our calculations. Jaiho's glow had dimmed to a pale flicker. And humans do this for entertainment. Wait until I show you jumping rope, Han Sol said cheerfully. He pulled a simple rope from his gym bag. The next 5 minutes changed the Academy's understanding of human capabilities forever. Han Sol demonstrated jumping rope at various speeds, including what he called double unders, where the rope passed under his feet twice in one jump. Professor Kita's instruments finally gave up and shut down. The medical team had stopped checking their monitors, realizing their equipment wasn't designed to handle these readings. Even the maintenance system had started recording everything for future analysis. And this, Principal Do-One said weakly, is what human children do in school. This is just basic stuff, Han Sol explained, not even breathing hard. Wait until I show you our sports team's training routines. The principal quickly raised all 4 hands. Perhaps we should save that for another day. I need to update the council about our findings. As the shell-shocked aliens left the gym, Han Sol put away his jump rope. He hadn't even shown them push-ups or pull-ups yet. He wondered how they would react when they learned about human endurance running. In his office, Principal Do-One was already drafting an urgent message to the council. The subject line read, "Immediate REVIU needed. Human physical capabilities severely underestimated." News of Han Sol's physical education demonstration spread through the Galactic Academy like a quantum wave. Students from all departments came to watch the morning gym class, floating at safe distances, while Han Sol showed more human exercises. Jaiho watched from his usual spot, his Andromedian glow dimming with each new demonstration. He had always been the best at everything in the academy. But now, students were talking more about the human's physical abilities than his academic achievements. During the advanced mathematics class, Jaiho finally spoke up. "Professor Myre, I have a suggestion for the upcoming academic Olympics." The professor paused her lecture on 12-dimensional calculus. "Yes, student Jaiho. Since we have a human exchange student, perhaps we should include physical challenges along with our usual academic tests." The class went quiet. Han Sol looked up from his notes with interest. "Are you suggesting," Professor Myre asked carefully, "that we add human physical activities to our most prestigious academic competition?" "Yes," Jaiho said, his glow brightening with confidence. "Surely a well-rounded competition should test all abilities, unless our human colleague feels it would be too challenging to compete in both physical and mental tests." Han Sol smiled politely. "I would be happy to participate, but perhaps we should include challenges from all species. It would be more fair that way." Principal Do-One, who had been monitoring the class through the Academy's communication system, appeared as a hologram. "This suggestion has merit. A multi-species competition would show the Council our commitment to cultural exchange. I volunteer to organize the physical portion," Professor Kita said, entering the classroom. "My research on human physical capabilities has been Enlightening. The other alien students began discussing the idea with growing excitement. They had never seen anything like Hansol's physical demonstrations. Many were curious to try simple human activities, though they still thought their advanced mental abilities would easily outweigh any physical challenges. We should have team events, Yoonji suggested, her environmental suit's speakers buzzing with enthusiasm. My species' zero-gravity puzzle solving, the Andromedan energy field manipulations, and perhaps some human physical games. Dodgeball, Hansol suggested with a small smile. It's perfect for team competition. Jaiho's glow flickered with satisfaction. Surely the human couldn't excel at everything. The academic portions would prove that advanced species were superior. I propose we hold the competition in one standard week. That should give everyone time to prepare. Principal Du-won considered the suggestion. The Academy's systems were still struggling to accurately measure human physical capabilities, but the Council would be pleased with this integration effort. Very well. The competition is approved. We will invite observers from other academies. As the class ended, students rushed to form teams and begin practicing. Several brave ones even asked Hansol to teach them basic human exercises. The Academy's medical team remained on high alert. In his private quarters, Hansol wrote a message to his old high school coach. Remember how you said sports teach important life lessons? You were right. By the way, could you send me the training schedule we used for last year's championship? I need to teach some alien friends about teamwork. Principal Du-won, watching the excitement spread through the academy, sent a quick message to the council. Cultural exchange program proceeding successfully. However, recommend updating emergency protocols for all future human exchange students. The academy buzzed with preparation. No one realized that this simple challenge would change galactic education forever. And Hansol hadn't even mentioned that he was also captain of his school's swim team. Professor Kita sat in his office, reviewing the recordings of Hansol's physical education classes. The more he studied them, the more his understanding of humans changed. His research notes filled multiple data streams, each more surprising than the last. In the Academy's main exercise hall, Hansol was helping a group of alien students learn basic exercises. He had modified the movements to work with their different body structures and the anti-gravity fields they needed. Remember, he said to Yoonji, who was trying to do a simplified jumping jack in her environmental suit, move at your own pace. Everyone's body is different. Yoonji's suit sensors were working hard to process the movements. How do humans do this every day? She asked, her voice filled with wonder. We start when we're very young. Hansol explained. Our bodies get stronger with practice. It's called training. In another corner of the hall, Jaiho watched while pretending to study advanced physics. His glow changed colors rapidly as he observed more students joining Hansol's training group. Professor Kita entered the hall, carrying his research tablet. Student Hansol, I need to speak with you. His voice sounded serious. Hansol walked over, leaving the other students to practice their modified exercises. Is something wrong, Professor? Wrong? No. Surprising? Yes. The professor displayed his research findings. According to my calculations, what humans consider basic physical education would qualify as advanced military training on most developed worlds. Hansol looked confused. But these are just simple exercises. We teach them to children. Exactly, the professor said. A human child doing jumping jacks uses more physical energy than most advanced species use in a standard month. Your species has extraordinary physical capabilities. The other students had stopped practicing to listen. Even Jaiho moved closer, his glow now a mix of surprise and concern. The dodgeball game you taught us, Professor Kita continued, combines advanced tactical thinking, precise spatial awareness, and physical abilities that exceed our military training simulations. Hansol scratched his head. It's just a kid's game. Wait until you see actual sports like basketball or soccer. The professor's color changed to a deep purple of astonishment. There are more intense activities. Of course, these are just warm-ups. Hansol smiled. Would you like to hear about marathons? That's when humans run for 42 kilometers without stopping. Several students activated their emergency stabilization fields at this information. Yoonji's environmental suit started running diagnostic checks, believing its sensors must be malfunctioning. Professor Kita quickly recorded this new information. This explains why human exchange students are always so calm during emergency drills. What we consider survival situations, you treat as regular exercise. Principal Du-won, who had been quietly observing through the academy's monitoring system, sent an urgent message to all faculty. Update all physical education protocols immediately. Classify human physical activities as advanced survival training. In the exercise hall, Hansol continued helping his alien classmates with their modified exercises. He didn't mention that back on Earth, he was also teaching his little sister's kindergarten class basic tumbling and gymnastics. Professor Kita made one final note in his research. Recommendation to Council. Revise all previous assumptions about human physical capabilities. What we considered impossible is merely their warm-up routine. The day of the Academic Olympics arrived at the Galactic Academy. Representatives from other academies filled the observation decks, their various environmental suits and anti-gravity fields creating a colorful display above the competition area. The event began with traditional academic tests. Hansol performed well in mathematics and sciences, though he didn't achieve the highest scores. Jaeho's glow brightened with each successful answer, while Yoonji's environmental suit displayed satisfaction with her performance. The human's academic performance is acceptable, one observer noted. As expected from a developing species, Principal Du-won watched nervously. He knew what was coming next. Please proceed to the physical challenges, he announced. The first event was the Andromedian Energy Field Manipulation Test. Contestants had to move delicate crystal structures using only controlled energy pulses. Jaeho performed perfectly, as expected. Hansol managed to complete the task, though not as elegantly. Next came Yoonji's species zero-gravity puzzle solving. Participants had to arrange complex geometric shapes while floating freely. Hansol completed this challenge with moderate success, adapting well to the weightless environment. Now, Professor Kita announced, we begin the human physical challenges. The medical team moved closer to the observation deck. They had learned to expect the unexpected from human activities. The first event is called dodgeball, the professor explained. Teams will attempt to hit opponents with soft projectiles while avoiding being hit themselves. The alien observers murmured with interest. It sounded simple enough. Then Hansol's team began to play. The hall erupted into chaos. Hansol moved with incredible speed, throwing and catching the balls with precision that made the physics department's instruments spark with confusion. He jumped, rolled, and dodged in ways that seemed to ignore the normal laws of motion. Is this some form of combat training? One observer asked in alarm. No, Professor Kita replied. This is a common children's game on Earth. The other teams tried their best, but they couldn't match the humans' natural agility and strength. Even with their advanced technology and anti-gravity aids, they found themselves overwhelmed by the simple physical demands of the game. Then came the running relay race. Hansol's team had practiced a modified version that allowed for different species movement methods. When Hansol took his turn, running at what he called a light jog, 3 different scientific institutes sent urgent requests for his biological data. This is not possible, one visiting professor declared. No species can maintain that level of physical activity without technological assistance. Hansol finished his lap and wasn't even breathing hard. Should I show them a sprint? He asked Professor Kita. Perhaps another time. The professor replied quickly, noticing several observers' instruments beginning to smoke from the strain of recording human physical data. The final event was a simple game of catch combined with mathematical problems. Participants had to solve equations while keeping 3 balls in constant motion. To everyone's surprise, Hansol excelled at this too. Physical coordination helps with mental focus, he explained afterward. That's why we have physical education in our schools. As the competition ended, the observers huddled together, frantically updating their academic databases. Principal Du-Won received 16 urgent messages from other academies, all asking the same question. How had they misunderstood human capabilities so completely? Jaiho's glow had changed to a respectful blue. Perhaps, he said to Hansol, there are different kinds of intelligence and different kinds of strength. Hansol smiled. Would you like to learn how to play basketball next? The medical team quietly added more emergency response units to their budget request. 1 month after the academic Olympics, the Galactic Academy looked very different. The main exercise hall had been completely redesigned. Signs on the wall read Advanced Survival Training Center, formerly Human Physical Education. Principal Du-Won sat in his office, reading messages from other academies across the galaxy. Everyone wanted to know about the Human Physical Education program. His 4 eyes moved quickly over the hundreds of requests for information. Professor Kita floated into the office, carrying his latest research paper. The title read, Human Physical Education, a revolutionary approach to survival training and species development. The council has approved our new curriculum, the professor announced. His color showed excitement. Every academy in the galaxy will now include human physical training as part of their survival preparation courses. The principal nodded. And Hansol? He has agreed to stay on as a part-time instructor after graduation. Professor Kita displayed a hologram of the new training schedule, though he insists we still call it gym class for the human students. In the exercise hall, Hansol was teaching a group of alien instructors from various academies. They watched in amazement as he demonstrated something called a basic fitness test. Remember, he explained, these exercises must be modified for each species. Not everyone can do push-ups like humans do. Yoonji, now a teaching assistant, helped demonstrate the modified exercises she had developed for her species. Her environmental suit had been specially redesigned to handle increased physical activity. My research shows that regular physical activity improves mental performance, she announced to the visiting instructors. Even simple movements help with concentration and problem solving. Jaiho, whose glow now showed a permanent tint of respectful blue, had created a new academic program combining physical and mental challenges. We were wrong to think advanced meant inactive, he told the other instructors. True advancement means developing all our capabilities. The Academy's medical team had expanded to include experts in various species' physical development. They had learned to stop panicking every time their instruments showed impossible readings during human activities. In the student dormitory area, a new group of human exchange students had just arrived. They looked at the advanced survival training signs with confusion. Don't worry, Hansol told them with a smile. It's just gym class. Though you might want to go easy on the dodgeball at first, they're still getting used to how humans play. Principal Du-Won's final report to the council that day read, the integration of human physical education into our curriculum has revolutionized our understanding of species development. What we once considered primitive physical activities are now recognized as advanced training techniques. Our only remaining challenge is keeping enough medical staff on hand when humans decide to demonstrate their version of simple games. As evening fell, Hansol watched new students of all species practicing in the exercise hall. Some floated, some hovered, and some walked, but all were moving in their own ways. On one wall, a sign displayed the Academy's new motto, Advanced Education for Mind and Body. In his quarters that night, Hansol wrote one last message to his old high school coach. You'll never believe what happened when I taught them about running. Wait until they find out about hockey. The Galactic Academy had changed forever, and somewhere in the vast reaches of space, countless alien students were learning that what humans called gym class was the most intense survival training they had ever experienced.